The twin sons of Tatooine beat down mercilessly as a sandstorm rolled across the dune sea like a living wall of fury. Most slaves knew better than to venture out when the desert showed its teeth, but 7-year-old Anakin Skywalker wasn't like most slaves. He'd spotted what looked like a glint of durasteel half buried in a canyon ravine the day before, and scrap metal meant credits. Credits meant maybe, just maybe, enough to buy his mother something nice for her birthday. The wind howled around him, tearing at his tattered moisture hood as he scrambled down the rocky slope. Sand pelted his goggles, but he'd learned to move by instinct in these storms. That's when his foot caught something that definitely wasn't rock. Metal. Smooth, angular, and impossibly large beneath the sand. Anakin dropped to his knees, digging frantically with hands that were too small for the work they did every day. What emerged from beneath centuries of desert burial made his breath catch. A face, or what had once been a face. Massive beyond comprehension, made of metal unlike anything in Watto's junkyard. Blue and red paint, faded by time and sand, still clung to armor plating that could have belonged to some ancient war machine. But the eyes, even dark and lifeless, those eyes suggested something more than mechanism. "Don't worry, I'll help you." Anakin reached out, his small hand pressing against the cold metal forehead. Static electricity jumped between his fingers and the metal surface. Deep within the buried giant, something shifted. A spark, barely a flicker, ignited in a core that had been dark for millennia. The optical sensors flickered once. Emergency protocols, dormant since before the Republic's rise, began their diagnostic sequence. Audio receptors caught the sound of a child's breathing, elevated heart rate, signs of exhaustion and exposure. And somewhere in ancient programming, a single directive activated: protect. It took Anakin 3 weeks of nightly visits to restore enough power to Optimus Prime's systems for basic communication. He snuck out after Shmi fell asleep, bringing salvaged power couplings and energy cells, working by the light of Tatooine's 3 moons. The ancient Cybertronian had run sophisticated scans of the boy during these visits, analyzing his unique connection to what the locals called the Force, noting the fear and hope that warred constantly behind young eyes that had seen too much suffering. When Optimus finally spoke in Basic, his voice carried the weight of eons. Over the following months, his systems slowly self-repaired with Anakin's help. He became the boy's first real teacher. But he taught nothing of the multiverse, of Cybertron, or of wars that had scattered Transformers across dimensions. He taught what a Prime had always taught: discipline, awareness, and moral clarity. Fear is not weakness, young one. Fear warns us of danger, but courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act righteously despite it. Master Optimus, why do bad people have all the power? The Hutts, the slavers, why does nobody stop them? Power without wisdom is tyranny, Anakin. And stopping tyranny requires unity, sacrifice, and individuals brave enough to stand for what is right, even when the cost is high. Anakin listened with an intensity that broke Optimus's spark. The boy absorbed every word as if it were water in the desert, because for the first time in his young life, someone was treating him not as property, not as a promising mechanic, but as someone worthy of wisdom, as someone who mattered. Deep in his heart, in that place where the Force swirled strongest, he felt the truth of those words settling like bedrock. A foundation that would one day be tested by darkness itself. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone subscribed. We thank you all for your continued support. Shmi Skywalker had learned to read her son's moods the way moisture farmers read the wind, subtle shifts that spoke of storms coming or blessings on the horizon. Lately, Anakin had changed. He still did his work for Watto without complaint, still showed the same mechanical genius that made him valuable, but there was something new in his eyes, a steadiness, a confidence that bordered on serenity, strange in a slave child who should have been ground down by the cruelty of their existence. One evening, as she prepared for a meager dinner, she asked where he disappeared to each night. Anakin looked up from the droid motivator he'd been tinkering with, weighing his words carefully. Another new trait. When had her impulsive, exuberant boy learned to think before speaking? "I found a friend in the desert, Mom. Someone who understands things. He's been teaching me." "Annie, the desert is dangerous. And strangers." "He's not dangerous, Mom. I promise. He's like the heroes from the stories you tell me. He says I can be like that too someday. That being a slave doesn't define who I am inside." What could she say to that? What mother could crush such hope? That night, as Anakin slept, Shmi noticed something odd. The moisture vaporators outside, ancient, barely functional machines that Watto never bothered to maintain, were humming with renewed efficiency. She stepped outside and ran her hands over the expertly repaired couplings. In the distance, beyond Mos Espa's edges, she thought she saw a faint blue glow against the darkness, like an eye watching over them. Shmi pressed her hand to her chest, feeling her heart race. Whatever had taken an interest in her son, she felt no malice from it, only nobility. The hyperdrive failure that stranded Queen Amidala's ship on Tatooine was, from a certain point of view, a calculated move by the Force itself. Qui-Gon Jinn felt it the moment they entered Maz Espa's dusty streets, a convergence of destinies so powerful it made the Force sing around him like a tuning fork struck true. And then he met the boy. Anakin Skywalker was everything the Force had promised, powerful, brilliant, kind-hearted, but there was something else Qui-Gon hadn't expected. An unusual steadiness beneath the raw emotions typical of a child raised in slavery. When most children would have been scattered, desperate, this boy showed focus. When most would have been timid around strangers, this boy showed measured confidence. Obi-Wan observed the boy carefully as they walked toward Anakin's home after the fateful pod race, noting something unusual in his bearing. What they didn't know was that at this very moment, half buried in the deep desert, Optimus Prime was conducting his own observations. His long-range sensors, finally restored to partial function, had detected the newcomers immediately. Their energy signatures were unlike anything in his vast databases, biological, yet connected to a universal force that resonated with the Allspark itself. The boy is unusual. You feel it too, don't you, Master? He has been shaped by more than hardship, my young Padawan. Someone has been teaching him, someone with wisdom. Warriors, Optimus recognized, noble purpose, disciplined. These were protectors, champions of peace in a chaotic galaxy. Through his sensors, he watched young Anakin interact with the tall Jedi, saw the hope blooming in the boy's eyes. And Optimus understood. These were the ones who could guide Anakin beyond this desert world, beyond the reach of a single guardian who would eventually have to leave. The meeting happened at dawn, in the deep desert where sand met stone. Qui-Gon had followed his instincts and the Force itself, which seemed to be pushing him towards something unprecedented. What he found defied every expectation. Optimus Prime stood fully revealed for the first time, his massive form casting a shadow that stretched for hundreds of meters. 28 feet of Cybertronian engineering, scarred by eons and dimensional travel, regarding the Jedi Master with ancient optics that glowed with sapient intellect. Qui-Gon's hand had instinctively moved to his lightsaber, but now it fell away. The Force sang around this being, not with malice, but with a resonance he'd never encountered, pure purpose, tempered by untold sorrow. The conversation that followed would have fascinated the Jedi Council. Two philosophies, separated by dimensions and designed for entirely different civilizations, found common ground in their approach to justice, sacrifice, and guardianship. Yet they differed in one crucial aspect. The boy is the chosen one. Prophecy speaks of one who will bring balance to the Force. His destiny is already written. I have seen too many destinies claimed by darkness because those who carried them believed they had no choice. Prophecy can be a gift or a chain, Jedi Master. You have taught him well. I sense in him a moral clarity rare in one so young. The words hung between them like a challenge. Qui-Gon felt something shift in his understanding. Optimus explained that his presence would draw attention, create questions that would distract from Anakin's path. The Jedi were his future now, yet both understood that their shared purpose, protecting the innocent, championing justice, had given Anakin a foundation that transcended either philosophy. As dawn broke fully over the Dune Sea, two Guardians reached an understanding that would echo through the boy's future. Darth Maul had tracked his prey across the galaxy, and he would not be denied. The Zabrak Sith Lord moved through the shadows of Maz Espa like death itself, eyes fixed on the ship where the Jedi sheltered with the Queen and the boy. That boy whose presence in the Force burned like a beacon of dangerous potential. The ambush came at dawn as Qui-Gon and his party prepared to depart. Maul's crimson blade ignited with a snap hiss that split the morning air, and Qui-Gon barely parried the opening strike. The duel was brutal, fast, and would have ended poorly. Maul was younger, faster, driven by rage that the Sith cultured like a weapon. Then the ground shook. A massive cargo hauler came hurtling toward the fight at impossible speed. But mid-charge, it transformed. Metal shifted, reconfigured, and where a vehicle had been, a towering warrior now stood. Optimus Prime's battle protocols were fully active, his optics blazing with tactical analysis as he positioned himself between the Sith and the child. "Step away from the boy!" Maul hesitated for exactly 1 second, then leaped, bringing his double-bladed saber down in a strike meant to cleave the mechanical giant in two. The blade met Optimus's armored forearm and stopped. Cybertronian steel, forged in gravity wells of a dead world, held against the ancient weapon. Optimus's other hand moved with precision, swatting Maul aside like a troublesome insect. "I'll remember you, boy, and the metal devil that protects you." Then the Sith was gone, fleeing into Maz Espa's maze. Qui-Gon stood, chest heaving, staring at Optimus with new understanding. This wasn't just a guardian, this was a warrior who had seen countless battles. Optimus knelt, his massive face level with Anakin's tearful eyes, and told the boy he must go with the Jedi now, but that he would always carry the lessons in his heart. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant was everything Anakin had dreamed of, and nothing he'd expected. Towering spires of ancient stone, halls that hummed with the power of 1,000 generations of Force wielders, and a council of masters whose combined wisdom could have guided civilizations. Yet standing before them, Anakin felt smaller than he ever had in Watto's junkyard. Yoda's ancient voice intoned about fear and anger leading to the dark side, but Mace Windu observed something unexpected, a clarity unusual in one so young. Someone had taught this boy discipline beyond what slavery should have instilled. I learned that fear warns us, but doesn't have to control us, that power means nothing without compassion. Who taught you this wisdom? A friend, someone who understood what it meant to be a protector. The council debated long after Anakin was dismissed. Too old, too attached, too much fear. Yet that strange clarity persisted, a beacon in the boy's otherwise turbulent emotional sea. Qui-Gon, standing at the chamber's edge, felt the Force ripple around those words. He hadn't told the council about Optimus. How could he when he barely understood what the being was himself? And in the Senate building, in shadows where neither Jedi nor Senate guards penetrated, Palpatine felt a disturbance in his carefully laid plans. The boy was perfect. Raw, powerful, emotionally vulnerable, perfect for molding. But something had touched him first. Something had given him a foundation that the future Emperor's subtle manipulations couldn't quite erode. Someone else had shaped him, and Palpatine needed to understand who, and how to unmake their work. Optimus Prime walked the Dune Sea alone, his massive form casting long shadows under Tatooine's punishing suns. His self-repair systems had restored 87% functionality, enough to begin searching for what had brought him to this dimension. His scans had detected something deep beneath the planet's surface, an anomaly in spacetime that resonated with multiversal frequency signatures. The trail led him to ancient temple ruins far beyond mapped territories, where sand gave way to glass, and glass gave way to stone that predated the Republic. Here, the fabric of reality was thin. He could feel it even through his sensors, a tear, a wound where dimensions bled into one another, and something else, a presence, vast and ancient, that existed simultaneously in the Force and beyond it. The Force vision came without warning. One moment, Optimus stood in the ruins. The next, he stood in a space that was everywhere and nowhere, and before him, a small figure leaned on a gimmer stick. Surprised I am not. Felt your presence I have, though meat and flesh we have not. Master Yoda, your reputation precedes you. From another place you come, yet the same purpose drives you. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. They spoke then, two beings separated by universe and origin, united in purpose. Yoda understood what Optimus was, a warrior sage from a dimension where beings of living metal fought eternal wars for freedom. And Optimus understood what Yoda knew, that Anakin stood at a crossroads where every choice mattered. They agreed, the boy must never feel abandoned. When darkness came closest, Optimus would return. The tear in reality wasn't closing, it was stabilizing, waiting, a doorway that would allow him to return when needed most. The Battle of Naboo erupted with the fury of a world pushed too far. Droid armies marched through streets where children had played days before. Starfighters screamed through atmosphere, painting the sky with their contrails. And in the midst of it all, a 9-year-old boy climbed into a Naboo starfighter he barely understood, driven by the need to help, to matter, to save others. But this time, something was different. As Anakin powered up the fighter, as instinct and the Force guided his hands across unfamiliar controls, he heard a voice in his memory, deep, resonant, carrying the weight of certainty. Optimus's teachings whispered through his mind about courage being the choice to act righteously despite fear. The battle raged around him. R2-D2 beeped frantically, highlighting targets, calculating impossible odds. Through the viewport, Anakin saw Naboo's security forces pinned down by overwhelming droid numbers. Every instinct screamed at him to charge forward, to destroy the control ship and be the hero, but Optimus's teachings held him steady. No, R2, we help them first. Cover the ground forces. Anakin made a choice. Instead of heading straight for glory, he moved to protect the pinned security forces, using his uncanny reflexes to draw droid fire away from them. He gave them time to regroup, to survive. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't the story people would tell, but it saved lives. When he finally did reach the control ship, it wasn't through reckless abandon, but through calculated patience. The Trade Federation flagship exploded in a cascade of light. Droid armies collapsed. The battle was won. But in the palace where Qui-Gon Jinn lay dying, the true victory was smaller and infinitely more significant. Anakin Skywalker had made one small choice to save others before seeking glory, and that choice rippled through the Force like a stone cast into still water. The celebration in Theed was everything a victory should be: joyous, relieved, unified. But Anakin stood apart, watching the festivities with a strange emptiness in his chest. He had saved the day. The Jedi were taking him to Coruscant for training. Qui-Gon had died asking for him to be trained. He should feel triumphant. Instead, he felt lost. That's when he saw it, a glint of blue and red, moving through the crowds with impossible grace despite its size. No one seemed to notice, but Anakin noticed. He always would. He slipped away, running through Theed's repaired streets toward the outskirts where forest met ancient stone. And there, bathed in Naboo's golden sunset, Optimus Prime waited. "You came back, but you said—" "I said I would trust the Jedi to guide you, and I do. But before I return to my own journey, I needed you to understand something. You will face darkness, Anakin, choices that seem impossible." "I don't want you to go." Optimus's finger touched Anakin's chest, over his heart, as he had that first day in the desert. He explained that he wasn't going anywhere that mattered. He would always be there, in that spark of light inside Anakin. That light was his own, not Optimus's, not the Jedi's. His, and no one could take it unless he surrendered it. Behind them, the multiversal tear shimmered with colors that didn't exist in this galaxy. The dimensional rift pulsed with energy, waiting. Optimus stood to his full height, magnificent against the dying light, and told Anakin he didn't need him to be who he was meant to be. He already had everything required. "Trust in yourself as I trusted in you." The portal flared brighter, and Optimus turned toward it. But before stepping through, he looked back one final time and spoke of freedom being the right of all sentient beings. That Anakin was free in spirit, in choice, in the power to decide what kind of protector he would become. Then Optimus Prime walked into the light. The portal collapsed behind him, sealing shut as if it had never existed. Anakin stood alone in the Naboo twilight, his hand pressed to his chest. He could feel it, that spark, that reminder of who he was and who he could choose to become. The darkness would come, the trials would test him, but he would remember. When the moment came, when the choice stood before him, he would remember the lessons learned from a metal giant who saw not a slave, but a boy who mattered, who taught him that power without compassion was tyranny, that a leader inspires hope. The galaxy's fate hung on a single spark of light, protected by lessons from another world. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of what might have been, remember to hit that subscribe button and join us for more explorations of the infinite possibilities within that galaxy far, far away. May the Force be with you, always.